The first thing I noticed was that the dovetail joint was lying to me. To anyone else, the drawer front looked perfect. Walnut and maple met in a clean line. The grain wrapped the corner like it had grown that way. But when I ran my thumb along the seam, I felt it. A tiny ridge, a breath of a gap where there should have been solid wood. Most people would never see it. I could not unfeel it. I sighed, set the drawer down on the bench, and picked up my chisel. The barn was my whole world. 3,000 square feet of converted farm space on the edge of a small town in the Pacific Northwest. The walls were insulated, the concrete floor was cold, and the air smelled like sawdust, linseed oil, and wet white oak. Outside, the storm that had hammered the coast all night was finally dying. Rain softened from rage to drizzle. Wind still rattled the gutters, but the worst had moved on. Weather, at least, was honest. It told you what it was going to do. Wood was not always honest. Wood twisted days after you finished a piece if you ignored the grain. It moved with the memories of the wind that bent it, the storms that soaked it. If you did not pay attention, it punished you. I adjusted the magnifying lamp and narrowed my world down to the single joint in front of me. I wore a plain gray t-shirt with the sleeves pushed up. Sawdust stuck to my forearms. I was 32, and I had spent the last 5 years building a life with as few surprises as possible. Strong furniture that would outlive me. 6 hours of sleep. Steel-cut oats at the same time every morning. No drama, no crowds, no noise. Just me and the work. A crunch of gravel cut through the hum of the lights. I froze. It was not the wind. Not a branch. Those were sounds I knew. This was something else. Tires on the long drive. Then footsteps. Not slow, not casual. Quick, uneven steps, like someone was half running, half falling forward. Nobody came out here by accident. My place sat far off the county road, tucked behind fir trees and blackberry bushes. If you reached my door, you meant to be here. Knuckles tapped the small side door. Once, soft. Then again, harder, like someone trying to stay polite while their nerves came apart. I set the chisel down. The steel clicked against the bench. Before I moved, my eyes went to the bottom drawer of my tool chest. The one that did not hold tools. Inside that drawer was a brass pin with an eagle on it, a certificate with my name in fancy print, and a photograph from Washington, D.C., a room full of white gloves and museum lights and people who talked about objects like they were holy. That drawer stayed closed. I crossed the floor and opened the side door. Cold, washed-out daylight spilled into the barn. The storm had torn holes in the clouds. Sunlight hit the wet ground and turned the mud and pine needles into a dull shine. The air smelled like soaked cedar, diesel from some far truck, and the last of the rain. She stood on the small concrete porch like the world had dropped her there. She held a bridal bouquet in both hands, and her knuckles were white around the stems. Her dark hair was damp and loose, curled from humidity and stress. Her makeup looked like it had been wiped off in a hurry with a towel, leaving faint shadows under her eyes. She wore an ivory slip-style top, a thin wrap, and a long skirt. The hem was splattered with mud from the walk up my drive. A veil hung from her wrist, half tangled like she had ripped it off and did not know where to put it. She had the polish of money, but she did not look fragile. Her back was straight, chin steady, like someone who had already chosen pain and had decided to stand up inside it anyway. Her eyes lifted to mine. "You're Beckett Foster," she said. Her voice did not shake. Her hands did. I knew the name she was saying. My name. What I did now. What I used to do. I did not know her, but I recognized the way trouble arrived. It never came alone. It came wearing perfume and a nice dress and dragged paperwork behind it. "You're at the wrong house," I said. "Road's back that way." "I know exactly where I am," she replied. She swallowed hard. "Travis told me you fix things." Of course. Travis. The only person stubborn enough to pull me into town life now and then. The only one who still said my name in rooms I never walked into anymore. "I'm a furniture maker," I said. "Not a crisis hotline." Her fingers clenched tighter on the bouquet, white roses, big, full, expensive. The kind you ordered months before, so they would be perfect on the day that was supposed to be the happiest of your life. I canceled my wedding, she said. She did not whisper it. She said it like a fact that had already exploded and could not be taken back. I walked out. I held her gaze. That's not my problem. It will be, she said softly. For the first time, I saw fear leak through her control. Because Mark already made it your problem, she went on. He froze my cards at the florist. My phone is in his car. The limo company will not speak to me without his approval. I tried to pay for gas and my card declined. Then my mother called from his number and told me I was having an episode. She reached into her wrap and pulled out a thick envelope, legal letterhead. My favorite kind of poison. She unfolded it with shaky fingers and held it out. I did not take it right away, but I read the top line, temporary financial hold. Below that was a neat paragraph, full of concern about protecting assets and her well-being while they waited for an evaluation. I had seen lines like that before. They could take a life apart without raising their voice. Who wrote this? I asked. Mark's attorney, she said. My mother is listed as concerned family. They were just waiting for me to give them a reason. I finally took the letter, folded it once, and set it against the doorframe. The paper was smooth and cold under my fingers. What do you want? I asked. She hesitated and lifted the veil and bouquet like she was making a confession. I don't want to go back there, she said. Not alone. Not until I have proof I'm not crazy. Not until I have something they can't twist. Her throat worked as she pushed the next words out. I need somewhere to breathe for one day, she said. Just one. And I need you to look at something. Quote. She reached into a tote at her side and pulled out a small wooden music box wrapped in a plastic dry cleaning bag. Even through the cloudy plastic, I saw the inlay. Rosewood and satinwood, a bit of mother of pearl that caught what little light hit it. Antique. Late 1800s, by the look of it. And badly hurt. The lid was warped. The hinge line was wrong. The corners had taken a kind of force that did not happen by accident. He did it this morning, she said, while I was getting my hair done. He said it was an accident. Then he laughed. I looked at the box, then at the letter, then at her. This was not a bride with cold feet. This was a woman being slowly boxed in with nice words and sharp paper. What's your name? I asked. Elena, she said. Elena Murphy. Murphy! I knew that name too. Old gallery money, old families, old traps. The wind brushed the side of the barn and made the metal roof creak. Not loud, just there. Like it was waiting to hear what I would do. I stepped back from the doorway. Get inside, I said. Her breath hitched like she had expected me to slam the door instead. Now, I added, before someone sees you from the road. She moved past me into the barn. When she crossed the threshold, she didn't stare around like a tourist. Her eyes went to the big doors, the windows, the back exit. Counting ways out. Counting ways in. I shut the side door and slid the iron bolt into place. The barn felt different with her inside. Not crowded. Alert. You're soaked, I said. I'm fine. You're not fine. I nodded toward the small bathroom off the main floor. There's hot water. There are clean coveralls on the hook. An old flannel. Change into something dry. Bring the box back when your hands stop shaking. She did not argue. That told me how long she had been forced to argue with everyone else. While she was gone, I read the letter all the way through. Then I took a picture of it on my workbench with my own phone. Evidence. I walked the perimeter of the barn, checked doors and locks, and looked out the loft window toward the road. Empty, for now. By the time Elena came back, the bride was gone. She wore my oversized gray flannel shirt and a pair of navy coveralls cinched at the waist. Her hair was still damp at the ends. The veil was shoved deep in the tote. The bouquet rested on the edge of my workbench like it did not know where it belonged now. She set the music box down with both hands. Show me, she said. I pulled the magnifying lamp over and peeled the plastic away. The box was fine old work. The damage was not. This is not a drop, I muttered. I lifted a splinter with tweezers and watched how the fibers had broken. This is compression. High force. So he lied, she said quietly. "I'm not done yet," I replied. She watched me, eyes hot but dry, like anger was the only thing holding her up. "Can you fix it?" she asked. I met her eyes. "I can stabilize the wood," I said. "I can rebuild structure. The music mechanism needs a specialist." "I already called one," she said fast. "My grandfather's friend. But if Mark gets this box first, it will disappear like everything else." She took a breath. "They'll say I ran, that I broke down, that I chose wrong, again, and they will make it sound so reasonable that everyone will believe them." I looked at her. "At the box." "At the letter on my bench." "Okay," I said. Her shoulders dropped a fraction. "I'm not a shelter," I added. "I don't do charity emotions." "I'm not asking for charity," she said. "Good." I pointed to the concrete floor. "You stay here. You follow my rules. You sweep. You help where I say. You eat what I cook. You don't touch my tools unless I hand them to you. You don't call anyone or post anything without telling me first." "Deal," she said at once. I opened a small metal lockbox from the cabinet and set it on the bench. "What's that?" she asked. "A place for your paper," I said. I slid the letter and her declined gas receipt into it. "If someone shows up asking questions, we don't just have your word, we have theirs on paper." She watched me like she was seeing a language she understood but had never been allowed to speak. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. I did not dress it up. "Because I don't like bullies," I said. "And because I can see how this ends if you walk back alone." Outside, the rain began again, light but steady, tapping the roof. Inside, a runaway bride in my coveralls stood beside my workbench, and my quiet life shifted on its hinges. Power went out just after sunset. 1 second the barn was warm and bright, the next it dropped into gray. The big overhead lights died, only the small windows near the roof let in a dull stripe of evening. Elena went still on the stool beside the bench, her hands tightened around the mug of tea I had poured her. "Is that normal?" she asked. "Out here, yeah," I said. "Storm knocks lines down. I have a generator." I crossed the barn by memory, found the pull cord, and stepped outside under the awning. The rain was coming down steady again, softer than last night, but still serious. I tugged the cord. The generator coughed, then caught. A low engine rumble rolled under the storm. Back inside, one lamp over the workbench blinked on, along with the small light above the stove. The rest of the space stayed in shadow. Elena let out a breath I did not know she had been holding. "You live like this all the time?" she asked. "Pretty much." She looked around the barn. The tall racks of lumber. The heavy benches. The stove in the corner with a pile of split wood beside it. The ladder up to the loft. "It is quiet," she said. "That is the point." I pulled a pot from the shelf and started dinner. Nothing fancy. Pasta, jarred sauce, some garlic I crushed with the side of a knife. The smell filled the barn, mixing with wood and rain. Elena watched from her stool. She looked strange in my coveralls and flannel, like a painting of a bride someone had wiped half clean. "My mother hates this kind of quiet," she said. "She says if a room is quiet, it means the wrong people are talking somewhere else." "What do you think?" I asked. "I think," she said slowly, "quiet is the first time in years I can hear what I want." She sounded surprised by her own answer. We ate at the small table by the stove. I sat in my usual chair. She took the one across from me. She sat straight, shoulders back, like she was at a formal dinner and someone might judge how she held her fork. "You can relax," I said. She gave a short laugh. I forgot how. We ate in a simple silence for a while. The storm tapped the roof. The wood in the stove crackled. My dog-eared clock on the wall ticked. "Tell me something true, Beckett," she said at last. "About what?" "About you. Travis only said you were the best at fixing old things and that you hate town." "That sounds true enough." She tilted her head. "And before this? Before the barn?" I twirled my fork in the empty bowl, thinking. Her eyes were on my face, steady and curious, not nosy. I could have brushed her off. I almost did. I used to work in D.C., I said. Museum work, old furniture, old boxes like yours. I was the guy they called when something important broke. What happened? She asked. I watched too many important things get treated like props, I said. And I saw how fast people can lie if it keeps money moving. I decided I would rather talk to wood than donors. She was quiet for a second. Is that why you believed me so fast? She asked. About Mark, about the letter. I believed the paper, I said, and your eyes when you talked about him. She looked down at her plate. Her thumb traced the edge of it. He did not start mean, she said. Of course he did not. He started helpful. He fixed things. He paid for a show when my gallery first opened. He called my ideas vision. He made my mother stop asking when I was going to marry. She swallowed. Then he started, protecting me, calling vendors before I could, telling me which clients were worth my time, putting my name on, joint, accounts that really had his address on top. By the time I realized every bill and every card was tied to him, I was the one sitting in my own office asking for permission. Her mouth twisted. If I ran any sooner, they would say I was ungrateful. If I stayed, I would disappear. And today? I asked. Today, she said. I left him at the altar, and he moved faster than I did. That letter was drawn up weeks ago. He was just waiting to send it. She looked at me again. If I go back tonight, they will sit me down on a white couch and speak softly about doctors and stress and one little checkup at a hospital in the city. And if I push back too hard, they will use it to prove I am unstable. Then everything I signed, built, and loved will have his name on it. I did not soften my face. I did not tell her she was overthinking. I had seen men with nice suits and calm voices do exactly what she was describing. You are not staying here forever, I said. You know that. I know, she said. I just need time. And something solid enough to put in front of someone that is not on his payroll. We will build it, I said. Her eyes searched mine like she was checking the joint before she leaned on it. Why am I not terrified right now? She asked quietly. Maybe you are tired, I said. Or maybe you know I am not going to lie to you and tell you this is easy. She smiled then. Small, quick, real. It landed low in my chest and stayed there. After dinner, she washed the dishes while I checked the locks again. The rain picked up outside. The drive turned into a dark river. No one was coming up that road without a reason. Where do I sleep? She asked. Loft, I said. There is a small room. Bed. Door that shuts. You keep it locked if you want. And you? She asked. I stay down here, I said. I do not leave the barn with a stranger sleeping in it. There, she said. She climbed the stairs, the boards creaking under her light steps. Halfway up, she paused and looked down at me. Beckett? Yeah? If this is too much, you can still tell me to get out in the morning, she said. I have walked away from bigger houses. I will let you know, I said. She gave a tiny nod and went upstairs. I did not sleep much. I sat at the workbench with a music box in front of me and started the first steps. Gentle pressure, low heat, a clamp in the right place, glue in the crack where wood had been forced. When the generator cut out around midnight, I let the barn go dark and just listened. Wind, rain. A soft sound above as Elena turned over in the small bed. Around dawn, my phone buzzed on the bench. Foster, Sheriff Dalton said in my ear when I answered. You all right out there? Fine. Got a call from someone in town, he said. Family says a bride is missing. Says she ran off. They are putting up flyers. I figured if she was heading anywhere on foot in this weather, she might take your road by mistake. My eyes flicked to the loft. Road's clear, I said. Just trees and mud. Dalton grunted. You see any strangers you call? Sure. I hung up. My hand was tight around the phone. I set it down and walked to the bottom of the loft stairs. Elena, I called softly. The door opened a crack. Her hair was wild from sleep, and she had one of my old wool blankets wrapped around her shoulders. I heard you talking, she said. Was that them? Quote, Sheriff, I said. Town thinks you are missing. Your mother is telling people you had some kind of break." Her jaw clenched. "Of course she is," she said. "This is her favorite story about me." "You do not have long," I said. "By Monday, they can lock you out of your gallery accounts if you do not show up to play the part." Quote, she came down the stairs, blanket dragging like a cape. "I cannot walk into that alone," she said. "If I show up by myself and start talking about broken music boxes and frozen cards, they will pat my hand and call a doctor." "You are not going alone," I said. She stopped on the last step. We were almost eye to eye. "Then how?" she asked. "We do it my way," I said. "Quiet, with proof, no screaming. No wild scenes they can point at later. We walk in with something they cannot argue away." She looked at the music box on the bench. "This," she whispered. "Maybe," I said. "Wood remembers things if you know how to read it." She stared at the box like it was both a wound and a weapon. "Then, teach me," she said. "Show me how to read it." That was when the crunch of tires hit the gravel again. We both turned toward the sound. The hair on my arms rose. This time, it was not the storm. It was a heavy vehicle moving slow. I killed the lamp over the bench with one flick. The barn dropped into soft gray. "Stay here," I said. Elena's hand caught my sleeve. "Don't go out there," she whispered. "He wants you angry. He wants a scene he can use." "I am not going out there," I said. "I am just looking." I went up to the loft and cracked the small window. A black SUV idled near my mailbox at the end of the drive. It did not come all the way up. It just sat there in the mist. After a few seconds, the driver's door opened. A man stepped out, held up a phone, and took a picture of my barn. Then he got back in and drove away. I pulled out my own phone and snapped a blurry shot through the glass. When I came back down, Elena's face was pale. "That was one of Mark's security guys," she said. "He sent him to see where I ran." "They know you left," I said. "Now they want to know what you ran to." She pressed the blanket closer around her shoulders. "I do not want to be your problem," she said. "You already are," I said. "And I do not drop work halfway." I went to the cabinet and pulled out a small motion camera I used to watch my lumber yard after a theft last year. I mounted it high in the rafters, pointing at the drive, ran the cable down, and plugged it into an old monitor by the desk. Elena watched every move. "You really do fix everything like it matters," she said. "It does," I answered. I clicked the camera on. The screen showed the wet drive, the fir trees, the road beyond. "Next time they pull in," I said, "we will not just feel it, we will see it. Time, date, plate number." "And then?" she asked. "Then," I said, "we stop hiding in the barn forever." She looked up at me, wrapped in my blanket, standing in my shop like she had been there for years, and also like she might vanish if the wrong person spoke her name. "Beckett," she said softly, "if I have to go back and face them, I want you there." "You will not be walking in as the runaway bride," I said. "You will be walking in with evidence." I glanced at the music box on the bench. I had a feeling it was hiding more than a broken lid. "We just have to make the wood talk," I added. Her eyes flicked to the box and back to me. "Then let's make it talk," she said. Outside, the rain kept falling. Inside, the storm that really mattered was only just getting ready to hit. I started with the hinge line. The music box sat under my lamp like a patient on a table. Elena stood on the other side of the bench, hands flat on the surface, eyes sharp. She was not looking at it like it was a pretty keepsake anymore. She was looking at it like it was a witness. "First rule," I said, "wood never lies." "People do." She watched every move as I loosened the brass screws and lifted the crushed section away. I set each screw down in order on a cloth, heads all facing the same way. My hands were steady, the way they had been in the museum labs in D.C. It felt strange to be that man again. "What are you looking for?" she asked. "Patterns," I said. "Random damage looks like chaos. Intentional damage looks like repetition." I adjusted the magnifying lamp and leaned in close. Grain lines, fracture paths, stress widening. I had seen all of it before, in antique cases smashed in shipping, in desks broken to look like accidents. "Here," I said. "Come around." Quote, she stepped beside me, close enough that her shoulder almost touched my arm. I could smell the faint trace of my soap on my flannel she wore. "See that line?" I pointed, with the tip of a small awl. "The crack runs straight until here, then it changes direction at this little dent." She squinted. "It looks like a tiny stop sign," she said. "Hexagon," I said. "6 sides. That is not a natural tear. That is a tool mark. Something with a hex head pressed in here." She sucked in a breath. "A screwdriver," she said. "A hex driver," I corrected, "or a drill bit. Metal." Forced into the wood. I rotated the piece under the lamp. "Here is another," I said. "Same shape, same depth, same spacing." "Elena," I said quietly. "This box did not just fall. Someone levered the lid down against the hinge with a tool until the wood gave." She straightened slowly. "He did it on purpose," she said. It was not a question. It was an understanding landing hard. "Yes," I said, and the wood remembered his hand. She closed her eyes for a second. When she opened them again, they were wet but steady. "He broke it while I was at the salon," she said. "I got the call from my mother. She said there had been an accident at the house. I thought something happened to my father. When I got there, Mark was holding the box in the foyer. It was in 2 pieces. He hugged me while I cried." Her voice dropped. "He said, 'It is just a thing, Elena. You get too attached.'" Quote. My fingers tightened around the awl. For a second, I wanted to drive it straight through the bench. Instead, I put it down. "Do you still have the photo from last night?" I asked. She nodded and pulled out the folded print from the tote. A picture on glossy paper. She and Mark in front of the box months ago. The lid whole. The inlay unbroken. I laid the photo on the bench beside the box and took a shot with my phone. Then I took a close-up of the fracture line under the lamp, making sure the hex marks were sharp. "Evidence," I said. She watched the screen like it was the first time her story had a shape. "So what now?" she asked. "Now we finish the repair," I said. "We show it can be fixed. Then we show how it was broken." Quote, "You are going back with me," she said, not begging, stating. "If you still want me there," I said. "Yes." Her shoulders loosened a fraction. "I do," she said. "We worked like that for hours." I guided her hands with the safe parts. I measured and cut new support blocks. She sanded them smooth. I showed her how to brush a thin line of glue, not too much, not too little, and how to tighten a clamp until the squeeze-out made a fine bead. "You do not rush," I said. "Wood needs time to accept the fix." She nodded. "People too," she said. Later, when the clamps were set and the box had to rest, I moved to another bench and started shaping a small brace for the barn door I had been meaning to fix. Elena followed. "You fix everything except yourself," she said. "Who says I am broken?" I asked. She lifted one brow. "You live alone in a barn with a generator and a locked drawer," she said. "You left a job in D.C. that still sends you padded envelopes. You do not go into town. You do not answer why." She stepped closer. "You listen to my mess. Who listens to yours?" Quote, I kept my eyes on the wood. "Travis," I said, "when he will not let it go." "And me now," she said softly. "It was not a push. It was a simple offer." "I did a high-profile case in D.C., I said finally. "Big donation, old desk, lots of press." The piece had hidden compartments. One of them held something that made a powerful family nervous. "What was it?" she asked. "It does not matter," I said. "What matters is they wanted it gone, quietly. No record. They thought I worked for them. I worked for the object." I set the chisel down and wiped my hands on a rag. "I documented everything," I said. "Wrote it all up. Took photos. Filed it through proper channels. The museum did what it was supposed to do, but the donor family made sure no one like me got invited back to those projects." "Blacklisted," she said. I shrugged. "I came home," I said. "Built this barn. Decided I would rather argue with lumber than lawyers." She studied my face. "And now you are about to walk into another donor family's mess for free," she said. "Not for free," I said. "For you." Her breath caught. Her fingers tightened on the edge of the bench. "Beckett," she said quietly, "you know they will come after you if you stand next to me in that room." I met her eyes. "I am not afraid of people who cannot hammer a nail straight," I said. A slow smile tugged at her mouth. "You know," she said, "for someone who left people to talk to wood, you are very good at showing up when it matters." I did not answer. I just picked up the chisel again and finished the brace. By the third day, the road had dried enough for Travis to make it back without drowning his truck. He pulled in just after lunch, mud up to the doors, a grocery bag in one hand and his eyes already scanning the yard. He stepped into the barn, saw Elena in my flannel with wood dust on her sleeves, and let out a low whistle. "Well," he said, "this looks domestic." Elena flushed. I shot him a look. "She is a client," I said. Travis grinned. "Sure," he said. "My bad. Client with a bouquet on your bench." He held up the bag. "I brought coffee, actual fresh stuff. Town is buzzing, by the way." Elena's shoulders went tight. "What are they saying?" she asked. "That you ran," he said. "That Mark was heartbroken at the altar. That your poor mother is beside herself. Flyers at the co-op, a post in the town group online, all about your history with stress. Quote." He made finger quotes in the air. "They say if you do not come home by Monday, there will be a petition for a temporary conservatorship to protect the gallery assets." "Monday," she whispered. "A deadline. Clean and sharp." Travis looked between us, his smile fading. "You got a plan?" he asked. "We do," I said. I showed him the letters, the receipts, the photos of the fracture line. I pointed out the hex marks and walked him through it like I would a client. He whistled low again, but this time there was no joke in it. "He really put a tool to it," he said, then called it an accident. "Yeah," I said. Travis rubbed the back of his neck. "You know they will not play fair," he said. "They will say you manipulated her. They will say this barn is a cult. They will say you coached her." "I know," I said. "And you are still going in?" "Yes." Quote. Travis nodded once. His face went serious in a way I did not see often. "Then I am coming," he said. "You will need someone in the crowd who knows how these people talk." "I do not want you caught in this," Elena said. He snorted. "Too late," he said. "You showed up at the one guy's house who has, save broken things, written into his bones. That makes you a friend. Friends come with trouble. It is in the manual." He slapped my shoulder lightly. "Besides," he said, "after DC, you think I am letting you walk into another wealthy hornet's nest alone?" He dropped the grocery bag onto the bench. "Get dressed up, both of you," he said. "Your mama's gala is tonight." Elena went still. "The Oak Haven Winter Gala," she said. "They will be there. My mother, Mark, his attorney, everyone who believes their story." "Good," I said. Elena turned to me slowly. "You want to walk into the lion's den?" she asked. I picked up the finished brace, ran my fingers over the grain and checked the joint. No ridge, no gap, solid. "I want to walk in through the front door with the truth," I said, "and walk you out again." Her eyes searched mine. There was fear there, and anger, and something softer that she tried to hide and failed. "I chose wrong for a long time," she whispered. "If I walk in with you, I am choosing you in front of all of them." The words landed heavy and clean in my chest. "Then make sure it is what you want," I said. She reached across the bench and took my hand. Not by the fingers, but by the wrist, like she was testing the strength of the joint. "It is," she said. The barn clock ticked. The rain eased. For the first time in years, I was about to leave my safe world on purpose. For her. "Then let's go crash a gala," I said. Travis was right. The gala was that night. The idea of leaving the barn made my chest feel tight. The idea of not going made it worse. "We cannot walk in there with nothing but anger," I said. "We need proof in our hands." For the next 2 hours, we built a file like it was a piece of furniture. On my bench, I laid out the letter from Mark's lawyer, the gas station decline receipt, the printed missing person poster Travis had grabbed from town, and the photos of the fracture line with the hex marks. I added one more shot, the old photo of Elena and Mark standing behind the music box when it was still whole, date stamped in the corner. For each piece, I wrote a short note in plain language. No jargon. Tool marks. Not from a fall. Financial hold without medical evidence. Gas card declined same day as hold. When we finished, it looked ugly. Black type, cheap paper, a stack of things most people would not want to read at a party. Good, I said. Truth is not supposed to look pretty. Elena watched me slide everything into a thin folder. What about the box? She asked. I opened the padded case on the bench. The music box sat inside, whole again. The inlay was not perfect, but it was honest. You could see where time and force had left their fingerprints. You could also see where care had gone back in. I wound it once. The mechanism purred. The tiny birds lifted when they were supposed to. The melody rang clean. "It is ready," I said. Elena's eyes softened when she heard the tune. That melody had been playing in her life longer than I had even known her name. She took a breath. "I need clothes that do not smell like your flannel," she said. "I like you in my flannel," I said before I could stop myself. Color warmed her face. "I do too," she said quietly. "But if I am going to face my mother, I want to look like myself, not like a runaway hiding in your shirt." Fair point. We drove into town in my truck, no music. Just the sound of tires on wet pavement and our breathing in the cab. I did not take her to one of the boutiques her mother liked. I took her to the thrift store beside the feed shop, the place where you could find a dress that had seen real life. Inside, under flickering fluorescent lights, Elena ran her fingers along a rack of gowns, sequins, satin, silk, old prom dreams and charity events. She stopped when she found a simple black dress, clean lines, no sparkle, no drama. It hit her just below the knee. It had a straight neckline and short sleeves. When she stepped out of the dressing room wearing it, I forgot how to inhale for a second. She did not look like a bride. She looked like herself. Strong, clear, done pretending. "Well?" she asked. "Looks right," I said. Travis met us back at the barn, just before dark, in a shirt with buttons for once. "You look like a real person," I said. "Do not get used to it," he said. "Let us go ruin some rich people's wine." I put on the only suit I owned, charcoal, no tie. The fabric felt strange after years of cotton and dust, but it still fit. I slid my old museum ID into my inside pocket. I was not sure if anyone would care. I cared. Before we left, I checked the barn one more time. Doors locked. Lockbox hidden in the false panel. Motion sensor armed. Generator fuel off. Animals fed. Wood stove damped. Then I hit the porch light switch and left it on. Elena watched me do it. "You planning on bringing me back?" she asked. "Yes," I said. She swallowed and nodded once. The Oak Haven gallery glowed like a ship when we pulled up. Glass walls, warm light. People in formal clothes holding small plates and big opinions. A valet glanced at my truck and hesitated, unsure whether to touch it. "I will park it," I said, handing him nothing. We walked in through the main doors, not the service entrance. Elena walked beside me, not behind. Travis peeled off and melted into the crowd, already scanning faces. Inside, the air smelled like perfume, wine, and fresh paint. A string quartet played in one corner. A silent auction table glittered with items. Vacations, jewelry, overpriced art. At the far end of the room, on a small stage, stood Mrs. Murphy. Perfect hair, perfect posture, microphone in hand. Beside her, Mark wore a navy suit, and the expression of a man who believed the room belonged to him. "And of course," Mrs. Murphy was saying, "we are all very concerned about Elena's health. She has always been sensitive. We are grateful Mark and his family are handling the transition with such grace." Elena's hand clenched around the strap of her small borrowed purse. "That is enough," I said under my breath. "Ready? Quote." "No," she said, "but I am going anyway." We walked down the center of the room. Conversations faltered. People turned. Some gasped. Some whispered. A path opened without anyone meaning to. By the time we reached the front, the entire gallery was paying attention. Mrs. Murphy saw us and froze for half a heartbeat. Then her smile snapped back into place. "Elena," she said into the microphone. "Sweetheart, we were all so worried." Elena took the last few steps alone. She stopped at the base of the stage. "You were worried about your story," she said, her voice carried without the mic. "Not about me." A murmur went through the crowd. Mark stepped forward, his face twisted into a look of concern. "Elena," he said, "you do not know what you are saying. Come with me. We can talk privately. Everyone here understands." He reached out like he was going to take her elbow and steer her away. I moved without thinking. I stepped between them. His hand hit my forearm instead of her arm. He glared at me. "This is a family matter," he said sharply. "Who are you?" Quote, "The man who fixed what you broke," I said. I set the padded case on the nearest cocktail table and opened it. The music box caught the light. People leaned closer despite themselves. Money liked pretty things. "Most of you know this box," Elena said, keeping her eyes on the room, not on Mark. "It sat in my grandfather's study for 60 years. It was the first art I ever loved." She picked up the key and wound it. The mechanism clicked and began to turn. When the first clear notes filled the gallery, it felt like the air shifted. "Mark told everyone he dropped it," she said, "that it was an accident, that I was overreacting, that my grief meant I was not well." She looked at her mother. "You used that story," she said, "to sign papers that say I am unstable, that I need my assets protected from myself." Mrs. Murphy's smile trembled at the edges. "This is not the place," she said tightly. "It is exactly the place," Elena said. I opened the folder and spread the photos out on the same table, beside the spinning box. Close-ups of the fracture line. The hex marks. The evidence. I turned to the crowd, speaking the way I would in a lab presentation, calm and clear. "When wood falls, it splits along the grain," I said. "Random fibers, ragged edges. You do not get repeating shapes." I pointed at one photo with my fingertip. "These are hexagonal impressions," I said. "Six-sided, even spacing, same depth." An older man in a tweed jacket stepped closer, adjusting his glasses. "That is a tool mark," he said. "A driver head or a bit." I nodded. "You get those when someone presses metal into wood to force it," I said. "To pry or crush, not when they simply drop it." Silence spread out from the table like a wave. "And who are you to say so?" Mark snapped. "You are some backwoods carpenter." Elena ran off with a stranger. "She needs help, not a stage." Before I could answer, another voice cut in, coming from the side of the crowd. "His name is Beckett Foster," the older man said slowly. "He consulted on the Smithsonian casework restoration. I was at that symposium." A low ripple went through the room. Recognition, curiosity, doubt moving. I did not like the heat of all those eyes, but I held my ground. "I am a furniture maker now," I said, "but the wood does not care what my business card says. These marks do not lie." Mark's jaw clenched. "She is unstable," he said, pointing at Elena. "She canceled a wedding without warning, ran off to a stranger's barn, destroyed a phone provided for her safety. We have a duty to protect her from herself." Elena laughed once. It was a short, shocked sound, but there was no humor in it. "You put spyware on that phone," she said calmly. "You read my messages. You recorded my calls. You stood outside Beckett's shop in the rain and watched." She looked at the crowd again. "He froze my accounts the minute I said no," she said. "He broke the one thing my grandfather left me that he could not control. Then he and my mother told everyone I was having an episode." She reached for my hand without looking, fingers threading through mine. "If you all want to keep doing business with a man who does that," she said, voice steady, "that is your choice. But you are not going to do it believing he is the victim." Mrs. Murphy's face had gone pale. She looked out over the donors and saw something she understood better than anything. "Doubt, judgment, risk. Mark," she said quietly, her perfect voice cracking for the first time, "perhaps you should take some space." He stared at her like he could not believe it. "You are believing this," he hissed, "over me." "I am seeing it," she said. "That is different." He looked around, saw only eyes on him, and did what men like him did when the room stopped obeying. He left. He shouldered through the crowd and out the side door. Someone let out a long breath they had been holding. Somewhere in the back, a glass clinked nervously against a tray. The string quartet stopped playing. No one told them to. They just knew. For a second, the room was a perfect still frame. Then, one by one, people began to move. Some came closer to look at the photos. Some pulled Mrs. Murphy aside to murmur about reputational risk. Some simply turned away, suddenly very busy with their wine. I did not care. I looked at Elena. She looked at me. "You did it," she whispered. "We did it," I said. Her chin lifted. "No," she said. "I did something I should have done years ago. I chose different." She squeezed my hand in front of everyone. "I chose you," she said, not loud, but clear enough that the people closest heard it. My chest felt too tight for a second. I had no clever answer, so I gave her the only honest one. "I am staying," I said, "as long as you want me." Her eyes softened. The fear that had lived in them the first day on my porch was gone. There was still hurt. There would be scars. But there was also light. "Then let's go home," she said. Home meant the barn, the shop, the place that smelled like sawdust and oil, and now oil paint. 1 month later, the storms had settled into a softer rhythm. Rain still came, but it did not feel like it was trying to tear the roof off. It just tapped on the metal and reminded us the world outside was still moving. In the middle of the barn floor, a maple cradle stood on its curved runners. I had just set a strip of mother-of-pearl into a thin crack in the headboard. It had been a flaw in the wood, a small split from drying. I had widened it, cleaned it, and inlaid the shell so the crack was not hidden, but strengthened. Elena walked over, wiping her hands on a rag. She had blue and gold paint on her wrists and a streak of green on her cheek. "You do it on purpose now," she said, nodding toward the inlay. "Show the cracks." "Better than pretending they are not there," I said. She touched the cradle rail with gentle fingers. "It is beautiful," she said, "like it was always meant to be that way." "It was not," I said, "but it is better for what it went through." She smiled at that. It was the small, private smile she only gave me. Behind her, canvases leaned against the wall. New pieces, not polite gallery work. Stormy landscapes. Close-ups of hands. The music box. My workbench. The barn door with its new brace. The envelope from D.C. sat open on a shelf. Inside was a letter, an offer to consult again. I had read it twice and put it back. Maybe one day. For now, this was enough. Elena stepped close and slid her hand into mine. "You still checked the joints 3 times, she said, "even when you know they are solid." "I do not like surprises," I said. She looked up at me. "Some surprises are worth it," she said softly. Her thumb brushed over the inside of my wrist, where sawdust had settled into my skin. "You did not plan for me," she said. "I did not plan for you. I planned to marry a man who broke the things I loved just to watch me flinch." She took a breath and let it out slow. "I chose wrong," she said. "Until now." She rose onto her toes and kissed me, not like a question, like an answer, like a promise she was making to herself first and then to me. I kissed her back, one hand on her back, the other still resting on the cradle rail, steady as a clamp. On the mantel over the wood stove, the music box sat in its new place. Every night, Elena wound it once. Every night, the tune filled the barn. The birds popped up, their tiny wings moving in perfect time. The lid did not creak. The hinge did not protest. The repairs held. Outside, the rain fell on the roof and the trees and the old gravel road. Inside, the joints stayed tight and true. People think love is about finding something flawless. It is not. It is about looking at the cracks, the breaks, the bad repairs, and saying, "I see you, I believe you. Let me help hold the weight." That was what we were doing in that barn. Not building a perfect life, building a strong one.